Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob Ent podcast. So this past weekend, Luka Luka Doncic got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And when we got the notification, everybody pretty much was like this. Welcome back, fellas. What was your initial reaction when you got the notification? Sham Charania broke the news, broke the internet that Luka got traded to the Lakers just for Anthony Davis and a couple of bag of chips.
I thought it was Santel on Twitter, trolling because there's no way that a franchise that is a serious franchise, a franchise that just made the finals, goes out and trades their superstar talent, top five player in the NBA, for Anthony Davis, who, sure, he's a great player in his own right, but that's stuff you just don't do if you're a serious organization. And maybe something changed when new ownership took place and this new GM or this GM decided that he wants to shake things up a little bit, and they can try to slander him all they want, saying that he was heavy, conditioning as a way to justify the trade, but the trade made no sense to me. But as a Laker, it makes 100% sense for the fact that they weren't going to re-sign AD. So if someone's dumb enough to offer you one of the best players in the NBA for a guy you're not bringing back anyways, like all you got to do is get the financials, the picks in order, and you click and send every time. Like it's not that hard. So it's a great trade for the Lakers. It sets them up post Bron perfectly. Um, and for the Mavericks, just makes me question the direction of this team moving forward. Because I mean, Kyrie's got a player option next year. He could always just dip. And AD, you're really going to lock into a guy who's about to be 32, who's already battled multiple injuries in his 20s. So those are not normally guys you trade for. Not You don't trade superstars for those guys, at least.
Yeah, J.A. Adonde broke it down like this too. One of the old sayings, unwritten rules when it came to trades in the NBA was you don't trade a big for a small, which is what happened. And you typically do not trade when you're talking about older for younger. That's what happened on both sides. But it seems like probably it will work out more for the Lakers. Greg, you see this news. You're a Bron fan. I'm a Lakers fan. We was lit. We was lit. It's up. Like my biggest concern, and I've made it clear on this podcast. Life after Bron. I've accepted it. Bron ain't gonna see another championship. He not gonna see another championship. It is what it is. I was concerned about what do they do once Bron leaves, because when Kobe left, it was some down years. I felt like a Nets fan when Kobe left. It was bad. No disrespect, but after Kid and Vince Carter left, it was dark days in New Jersey. Well, Brooklyn. Now we got Luka. Life is good. Life, life is good. It's a completely different outlook on the Lakers and the future. But does Luka present an opportunity that Bron actually will see or get a chance for another ring?
Yes, I do believe so. I believe so strong, firmly that that's the case. And I think he's going to extend LeBron's career a little bit too. I think LeBron will stay a little bit longer than he might have initially planned with AD being here, because it was stagnant, it was getting old, and it was getting tough. AD could never take the reins fully from LeBron and become the best player on the Lakers full time. There were nights where he did it. They did it on a part-time basis, but in the playoff, he's not a playoff riser. Let's just be honest. He's not. Outside of that 2020 series, that we did not see that from AD. He did not exhibit the behavior of someone who was going to take over that franchise, be the face of that franchise, and they would have a bright future with him leading the charge even after Bron had left. So let's rewind. Let's rewind. When I saw the trade, I thought it was fake, just like Miles said. When it said in that it was real, and I saw the yes, this is real tweet from Shams come in, I immediately got to thinking to myself, why would Dallas make this trade? There is unless Luka kills someone, like ran someone over with the car, got vehicular manslaughter, Henry Rugg style, did that. There is no reason why. There is no reason why this trade should have ever happened. None. You don't trade a 25-year-old superstar, a megastar, right? A generational offensive talent, one of the two greatest offensive playmakers we've ever seen in this sport ever, LeBron and him, right? And then you trade him to the team that already has LeBron still playing at an all NBA level, right? And you don't shop him. You don't shop him. You don't open up the bidding war to anybody else, any other teams. You don't canvas the league and see what else you can get in return, and you could have gotten a king's ransom for Luka, right? You only call the Lakers because you have an infatuation with Anthony Davis. It makes no sense. It reeks of collusion. It reeks of the end of conspiracy theories and the NBA trying to spice things up again to get ratings up high, so that way we can be interested in the league more, because when these dynasties start to build and the Lakers are great, it's good for the league. As much as people like to act like they love parity, you don't. You love it when there's intrigue in a particular team, when there's big names coming together, when big time franchises that you love to hate find themselves back on top, and you can't explain how it even happened as well. But from Dallas' standpoint, look, you don't. Even if I try to do the math in my head, if you're Nico, this is your logic. Like, I want to trade for a win now player. I want to win in the interim and win in the future after trading Luka Doncic away, because I'm sick and tired of his fat behind, and I'm sick and tired of him not being in shape. Okay, so I try to play that game. There are literally only 3 players in the NBA, 3 to 4 players in the NBA you trade that guy for. Tatum might be one of them. Okay, I'm willing to accept Tatum as an answer. Giannis, Jokic, Tatum, Wembanyama, Shea, maybe Shea. All right, and to not even scratch the surface on those conversations, to even make those phone calls, and you trade for AD, who's a top 10 player in the NBA, but bottom half of the top 10, I would say, because of his inconsistency and because of the fact that he's in and out of the lineup, and because of the fact that I know he's been better at playing more games, but even there's still always the injury concern with him. We're always waiting for the other shoe to drop with him. And so for you to go get him and pair him up with Kyrie Irving and try to sell your fan base on that, do you understand that some fan bases never will see a player as talented as Luka on their team? Luka has made an all NBA team, all NBA first team, 5 out of 6 years since being in the NBA. 5 out of 6 years. He had a 60, 20, 20 triple-double. He had a 73-point game in this league. We talk about defense, and defense is obviously very important, but he's such a great an all-time great offensive hub, that he was able to take that Dallas team last year, or out of shape and overweight, to the finals, and he carried them there. Like, Kyrie was awesome, but Kyrie was awesome in that niche. We know what he is. He's a number 2. And now when you pair up Kyrie and AD in Dallas, looking at their outlook, do you trust Kyrie carrying more of the burden as a playmaker on that team? We've seen the movie before. He's older now. He's more mature. But I don't want Kyrie trying to generate offense for my basketball team. I don't want – first of all, he's not healthy enough often enough. He misses games far too often, right? And we don't know when it'll come. But he's another one of those guys where once a year, twice a year, he's going to get nicked up. And they're usually pretty serious injuries throughout his career. They're not like little things with him. And he takes care of himself, but he just gets hurt. He's just a small guard in the NBA. It's the life of a small guard in the NBA. And so to have him give him playmaking responsibilities, setting the table for these guys. I just don't think that that's a feasible way to go about trying to win a championship. And then you got another guy in Anthony Davis who's aging and who has an injury history, and he's literally traded for him as he's out and hurt. I just don't think it was a smart move at all. And it doesn't even matter what the return is in this case. Like, you didn't get any picks. You got one pick. You got Max Christie. Nice player. That's it. For that to be the return in totality is one of the most ridiculous. It's the worst trade I've ever seen in sports. It's worse than the Brooklyn Nets trade. It is the Nets trade that they made to the Celtics. It's worse. I don't know. The Nets shafted themselves for years, but so did Dallas. Because you trading a guy like Luka, you should get the mothership back. And you literally shafted your fans who have grown up with Luka, your fans who have embraced Luka. He literally is an economy in and of himself in Dallas. You trade that guy away, the international superstar that he is. It's absurd. And we were not under the impression that he wasn't going to resign there. There were always little murmurs about him potentially not resigning there, but you address that as you get closer. And you still get a bigger return than you got now if you made it open to the league and canvassed the league. But what they did was just so irresponsible on so many levels as well. And we'll talk about the Lakers aspect of this. I'm sure Tone will, we'll get there, because we got to talk about, the outlook of this basketball team. Because everyone talks about the Lakers in the future and how this is a move for the future. It's also a move for the now. When do we know the Lakers not to be a team that thinks about right now winning championships right now? That's what they do. That's who they are. And at their core, that's who they are. And so they believe that not only can they win in the future, in the next 10 years, 12 years, they can win in the immediate right now with Bron and AD. Bron and AD. See, it's force of habit. They should still be together. Bron and Luka together. They believe they can win those two guys together in place, and they get a big, and you have defensive wings, you have shooting all over the place. It's actually a more of a LeBron team now. You think about it, Maxi Kleber joining, Connect, Reeves. They got all these guys around. Rui, he's here. It's a little awkward, but he's here. We'll see what happens. But they got shooting. They got shooting on this basketball team now, maybe more so than before as well. And Markieff Morris can give you a little something every now and then. He's along for the ride. But the moral of the story is this team can compete now, and they can make trades to make themselves competitive. If not competitive for a championship, if not this year, certainly next year with LeBron on the roster. So I ramble. I'll let you, steal the conversation, but a worst trade I've ever seen. I've never seen a worse. This is just absurd. We all thought it was fake. That's how you know it's bad. We haven't seen too many trades like that.
Before we go into the Lakers side, just on the Maverick side again. So Nico Harrison mentioned J-Kid ain't know, ownership ain't know. Ownership signed off once they found out, though. The new ownership, not Mark Cuban. Does a championship need to come out of this for it to be viewed not as a failure for them?
Yeah, but I think his days are numbered now. Like, in a matter, you make a big splash like this, you got to see a return immediately. Like, you're trading one of the best players in the world for Anthony Davis, thinking that this is going to jumpstart your team. Like, I don't see that happening. Like, this was not the move to make to fix this roster. Like, Luka wasn't. He had his issues, but that wasn't the biggest issue that Dallas had. So he's gonna have to get on the wire, figure out some more moves to make. But Kyrie and AD, that doesn't really move the needle in the West as far as making a playoff run. There's plenty of teams they were already better than Dallas with Luka, and now they're still head and shoulders above those teams, with AD on Dallas. So
a Kyrie and AD pairing is so much more exciting 5 years ago, right? Like, you have a big three, and then Clay, they got Clank Thompson over there. That would have been a big three for the ages 5, 6, 7 years ago. To make this trade now for Luka Doncic in his prime, not even his prime, he's not even there yet. Only 25. The prime ages are 27 and 31. is absurd. So yeah, the only answer there is the only way he's vindicated is if they win a championship. That's the only way he's vindicated. And I'm sorry. I look, here's the crazy part about this trade. Like I said, like the only way you make this trade is if in the immediate the player you acquire makes your team like a favorite, a championship favorite. That's the only way it makes sense to me. And to be honest, Luka and Bron have a higher ceiling as a pairing, with Bron being 40 than AD and Kyrie. I don't think it's a debate. LeBron's still playing at an all NBA level, and you just gave Bron like free rest. Like he don't have to have the ball in his hands all the time anymore. He doesn't have to. He can just be a roller. He can screen and roll. He can cut. He can slash, and Luka's gonna find him, right? So I think that they've extended LeBron's career. I think they've done LeBron a favor. And I'm gonna say this too: it's hard to believe that LeBron didn't know about this going into it. I know this trade had been in the work for 3 weeks. That's what we hear. And I also know that there's been a lot of negotiation back and forth. Just reading what I've read, that Rob Pelinka had basically talked Nico down. Nico was going to get more. They were talking about more picks. They were talking about Dalton Connect potentially being involved in the trade and just more young talent being involved. And he talked him down to what we saw on paper, what we saw on that tweet from Shams. So there's no way Bron didn't get wind of it. There's just no way, like at some point, Bron didn't get wind of that trade. And I mean, look, the pep that Bron had in his step, he would have done that in MSG anyways. But like, it was different. It was different that night. It was different on Friday night. And so I mean, look, I don't blame Bron. You don't think twice about that trade if you're anybody involved. Luka is in a different stratosphere as a player than Anthony Davis. It's not the same. They're like Luka and Jokic, 1 and 2, are like in that like all-time Hall of Fame. We know they're gonna be Hall of Famer stratosphere. Is even different than Joel. Joel Embiid's not in that conversation. As great as he is, he's not. Jokic and Luka are 2 Hall of Fame surefire guys, and the Lakers just got him at 25 years old for Anthony Davis, who in the playoffs is not a riser. He ebbs and flows in the playoffs. You don't know what we're going to get game to game. Who has not risen to the challenge of taking the mantle from LeBron James, and you just got an all-time clutch playoff performer in Luka Doncic, who took a team to the Western Conference Finals in like, I don't know what year, maybe year 3. I should refer back to the notes here, but year 3, like early in his career, Western Conference Final run in the bubble, and then all this stuff, man, or knocking out the Clippers in the bubble, I should say. So it's just unreal. It's just unreal. One of the greatest offensive hubs ever going to the Lakers before he's even 27 years old for nothing.
I want to touch on 2 things real quick that you just mentioned. Especially, I think this is good insight for our listeners and our viewers. I'll put it like this, because obviously I don't know the man. I'm not a part of Clutch. I'm not part of the LeBron crew. I'm not Mav or any of them. But I'd say there is probably a 5% chance that LeBron didn't know. And the fact in that is because a part of the trade, what was needed was Anthony Davis had to waive his trade kicker. So for him to waive his trade kicker, you know who involved in that part of the conversation? Rich Paul, his agent. So at some point, Rich Paul knew. And I'm sure at some point, Rich Paul had to let Bron know, hey, you're a running mate. You're a homie. You're ace boom cool. Is going to get out of here. So whether he knew the day before, whether he knew 2 weeks before, I can't believe in any world that LeBron did not know. Just off that fact alone, because AD had to waive the trade kicker. So AD knew about it. Seems like the only person that didn't know about it was Luka in regards to the players. AD, Bron definitely knew about it. Luka just bought a house for $15 million. So it doesn't seem like he was aware that he wasn't going to be a Maverick for life. AD, Bron era. What's your thoughts on the tenure of Anthony Davis as a Laker? Failure or success?
I think it's a success, but you wish there was more success that came with it. Like they got the 1 championship, but when you got AD at the time, he was, this ascending two-way player who could win multiple defensive player of the years. He could do so much at the power forward position. But over these last, 5, 6 years that he's been in LA, it just really hasn't amounted to as much as we thought. Like they've been knocked out of the conference semis. They haven't reached the points that we thought they would. So in that aspect, sure, it's a failure because LeBron is always expected to make a finals appearance. But him getting up in age, AD was supposed to be the guy who kind of takes the mantle and pushes this team over the top. And we didn't really see that as much as we thought. Like I think Bron has had to do way more over the last few years than I think most Lakers fans thought he'd be doing at the age of 39 and 38 and stuff like that. So um, they got the championship in the bubble. If they didn't, then this thing would be a complete failure. But at least they got one ring out of it.
That's the other thing that I forgot to mention that Greg said earlier. And we'll go to the Lakers side after this. Regarding AD and not taking the reins, J.A. Adonde. So I listened to like 10 podcasts leading up to this to get a bunch of the different input from those that are way closer to the situation, people that work in that LA market. J.A. Adonde said somebody told him that AD liked to do his press conferences with LeBron because he knew most questions would go to Bron and he wouldn't have to talk as much. He did not embrace being the guy, and the Lakers were aware of that. You talking about life after Bron, we need somebody that's going to be the face of the franchise. And when you talk about the Lakers, unlike pretty much most organizations, yes, you have to perform on the court. But the Lakers, what makes them so great as an organization, what makes them the number one organization, the most viewed, the most watched, is because it's Lake Show. It's the Lakers. It's entertainment. Going back from Magic, Kareem, you looking at Kobe, Shaq, Bron. They don't just get great players. They get people that are stars. And I don't think AD would have fit that bill. Looking at the Lakers side, you mentioned, hey, they may, if not this year, next year, they're gonna be able to compete to be getting a championship. How much faith, though, and how much optimism do you have in Pelinka to actually build a roster to compete for a championship around Luka and LeBron?
His job got a lot easier. You know what I mean? Like you he just got a gift from God, right? When Nico put that call in, he literally got a gift. He was gifted an opportunity to change the narrative of his tenure as the GM of the Los Angeles Lakers, and obviously he took it. They took it and ran. I love the part of the story where they say that they had to huddle as a team to discuss whether or not they were going to make this trade. There was no huddle. There was no huddle. If anyone objected, they told them to shut up quickly, and they called Nico back until let's make this thing happen as well. So look, man, like I have faith in them in the sense that it's not going to be as hard as it was as the outlook looked when they had AD on the roster, because we were talking about, like, can this team get Zach LaVine? Can this team get DeMar DeRozan? What the heck? And you went and got Luka instead. So now you're just building around, just building around those two guys. Everything in their orbit. You're trying to put pieces in place. You're trying to get the defensive minded big man who can catch lobs and hopefully make a couple free throws for you as well. Nick Claxton would be awesome in that role. Maybe Clint Capella, if he can't do that, level down. Maybe maybe Rob Williams. I'd like to get guys who are healthy, but Rob Williams potentially as well. There are guys that can be had. And you did, again, for some godforsaken reason, you didn't have to include all your picks in this trade. So you have picks to trade. You didn't have to include Austin Reeves. Unbelievable. So now you still have Austin Reeves as a potential trade chip if you want to trade him as well. They have so much flexibility here, and they have things that other teams would want. at left, and the cupboard's not bare. So they have an opportunity here to get better from here and make other deals and acquisitions. And then the buyout market is your best friend now because you're suddenly a destination. People want to play with Luca. People want to play with Bron. People want to play with DFS, who's over there, Vando, and all them guys. Like they have pieces in place. It's not about them being. I'm not saying DFS and Vando are the main attraction. Of course not. But they have good pieces in place. They have defensive-minded wings. They have shooters. They just need the rim protection. They just need the rim, and then they can make a real run. And they're gonna give a team hell in the playoffs, right? Like they're gonna really go on a run here as well. And Brown can stay fresh. He can take nights off because you have this offensive hub and Luka that can carry the load offensively for you every single night as well. I will say it's overblown the conditioning thing about Luka because I just saw a stat here that he led the league, I believe, in minutes last year, total minutes in the regular season and the playoffs. He had 3,524 minutes logged last year. The fat guy, Luka Doncic, 3,524 minutes. I don't think Joel Embiid's played that many minutes combined in his career. And we're talking about Luka Doncic being out of shape. And then the next closest is like Anthony Edwards at 3,419, right? Who's a child as well. So a lot of this is overblown. And I thought about this. I thought about when we were seeing all the leaks about how they were concerned about his weight and this and that. He came back at 260. But I'm like, Luka really hasn't been hurt that much in his career. Yesterday, obviously, this year, he obviously got banged up. But I really have not seen too many, injuries pop up in this guy's career that would concern me. Obviously, the weight thing's a problem. We've talked about it on this podcast. But, man, look, they have a really bright outlook with this team. Bron's still playing at all NBA level. I think they can win a championship this year. I totally believe that. I do. I think Luka owns OKC. He owns them. And so they can run through OKC. They can beat OKC if they go get that big man as well. And there's no one they should fear. There's no one the Lakers should fear this year immediately. And magically, guys, it's just funny how this works. They're saying he's going to play on Saturday. That he was all year. He was hurt, the calf, this, that. I'm fat. I'm this. I'm that. I'm eating too many cheeseburgers, Whataburger, yada yada yada. Oh, he's back on Saturday though. He's back on Saturday, and he's mad though. And you got a mad Luka Doncic. Look, we're gonna witness something great, guys. I'm telling you, man. Like a great player like this having extra motivation. That's all they need. They don't even need it to be great, and you're giving that to them. He's gonna go kill these teams in the league, man. He's going after Dallas. He's a competitor. He's the perfect face of the franchise for the Lakers. He reminds me a lot of Kobe in the sense that he doesn't back down from anybody. He's always talking trash. He walks the walk. He plays with that flair. LA is gonna love this guy. They're gonna love this guy, man. And somewhere deep in his casket, Dr. Buss, he's smiling. He got a big smile on his face in the casket, just 6 feet under. He's smiling right now. They did him proud.
Hey, Miles, before you go, right? Something that was said today too on a podcast I was listening to, which is a very great point. They pointed out what we saw from Bron in the Olympics and how Bron didn't have to be the best player, but he was the MVP. You add Luka to the mix, you get a very scary version of Bron at 40 years old. You allow Bron to not have to be the best player, but to just be the MVP for the team, which means we get to see Bron truly pick his spots of when he wants to go kill. This whole season, we haven't been able to see that really that often because, keep it a stack, AD start off the first 10 games of the year, MVP. We ain't been saying that as of late. He been doing more busy doing interviews with Shams. Yeah, but what's the ceiling you feel though? Miles being on the outside looking in, you're not a Lakers fan. You a Knicks fan. Objectively, what do you see as the ceiling this year for this Lakers squad?
I feel like everything changes if they can get a center that picks up the slack that they just lost in AD. Like one, AD was clamoring for a big before he left. So now you got like a couple voids to fill, and power forward, and sure they can throw Brown at the four or whatever, but you need a true center that can play defense behind him. Because sure, the conditioning maybe was overblown, but that could also be them also trying to say it in a way of he took plays off. I mean, Luka took plays off constantly, and in the finals, it was heightened that he was doing that. So if he does that in LA, it'll be more scrutinized. So he's definitely going to have to step his game up. But like you said, we're getting a guy at 25 who's not even in his prime yet, and he's one of the best players in the world. So this doesn't happen. And if you ever told me that Luka and LeBron would ever play on the same team, I'd say you crazy, because that this stuff doesn't happen. So I think the ceiling, if they get a center, conference finals run, um, with the team right now, maybe second round conference finals still, it's still good enough. Like you still got Luca, and he's already shown that in the playoffs he can dominate. He can be the best player in the series, regardless of who's in that series. And you add Brown on whatever he gives you, which, I mean, at 40, I don't want Brown to be the, you know, 2015 Finals Brown. He can chill out a little bit now that we got Luca. So it's gonna be fun to watch, and hopefully they get that chemistry going as the second half of the season goes on, and the deadline's on Friday, so let's see what happens with that. But yeah, it's a great move.
Yo, I'm just thinking about, you mentioned, Luka getting to the finals. He had, no disrespect, he had Kyrie as his running mate. And when he needed him the most in that finals run, Luka really couldn't get any help. I got y'all here. I got y'all to the promised land. Moses got y'all to the promised land. Y'all start complaining and murmuring. Y'all got stuck in the desert, and nobody was able to get to it. Nobody was able to get it. Imagine Luka having that same type of run, but instead of having a 6'1", 6'2" point guard who's slim, sometimes deals with injuries, can at times be bothered by length from defenders. Instead, you have a 6'8", 250-pound, seasoned, I've seen everything ever in the playoffs, LeBron James as his running mate for help. I can definitely see they make it to conference finals. Somehow they make it to the finals, and it's Luka with Bron. Completely different story. You don't win. I'm sorry, you don't win 98% of the time when your best player is a smaller guard, and half of the time you don't win when your second best player is a smaller guard. Let's switch Kyrie out. Give Luka LeBron. Score.
How do you think that they're not going to win is the question, right? Like you hear Charles Barkley go out there and say, "Oh, well, this isn't going to work," in his stupid accent about how this isn't going to work because those two guys can't play together. They both like the ball in their hands. LeBron's coexisted with Dwayne Wade and Kyrie Irving, two high usage guys in their primes, right? And while Kyrie was a lot of like he's setting the screen, he's rolling, he's getting buckets on back cuts, he's hitting post ups. There's a lot of ways Bron can score. He's a basketball genius. Like there's nothing he can't do on the court, to be quite honest with you. And even at 40, he's still a transition nightmare. Getting like what JJ Redick say, the Mac truck lane. Like when he gets going downhill, it's the Mac truck lane. Guys bounce right off him, he scored. We saw it in MSG on Friday night. It's the same thing. So I just when you look at this pairing, to pair LeBron with another guy who can pass that well, but then also shoot the ball at that level too, right? And when he's activated, Luka can knock it down. Just he's a sharp shooter, can shoot it with distance, shoot it with range. He can score from anywhere as well. There's no limit to how good they can be. And I think the great part about it is, again, Bron gets to chill. Like the regular season he can coast. He's gonna coast. Like he's not gonna put his foot on the gas. He's gonna save his fastball for the playoffs, and he's gonna be able to. And with AD, there were nights where he needed Bron to come save him. With Luka, he will not need LeBron to come save him a lot of nights. He just won't. He just won't. He can take the last shot of the game, and you can trust that he's gonna make that shot. He can win you games. He will win you games by himself. We saw it in Dallas for years. He has shooting around him with Maxi Kleber and all these guys, and Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves, and the shooting is there. Maybe they can use a little bit more. DFS is there as a shooter as well. Maybe they can get one more shooter. But man, listen, like this is going to be so much fun to watch. It's immediately the best players that LeBron's ever played with. Like to your point, Tone. Immediately the best player LeBron's ever played with as well. And so I think their games are going to mesh so nicely off of each other. I think LeBron as a roller, catching the ball in the paint and making decisions and picking defenses apart as a cutter. Catching the ball in the low post, hitting cutters off those actions as well. There's gonna be so many things they can do that they couldn't necessarily do with AD. That I just, man, I'm so excited to watch it. I'm so happy that we're all very lucky to be able to say and blessed, quite honestly, to be able to say we get to watch these two guys play together. And people are going to say it's glazing, yada yada yada. Shut up. This is you. You're lucky to be watching this. Shut up. Okay, like I said, I don't know if Nico had a psychotic break. I don't know if maybe he's like an inpatient at some kind of facility. I don't know what's going on. I don't. Maybe Luka did kill somebody. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not putting slander. It's just I don't like. There's no reason why this trade should happen, and for us to be witnessing it is unbelievable, man.
I give a little more on that too. I totally forgot to mention this. Just for those that's listening, that you may not have dove that deep into it, and to try to figure out the why and what happened and how it went about and why was it so secretive. So Nico Harrison, right? Nico, his time as an agent before this, working with Nike as a Nike rep, he worked directly closely with Kobe. Who was the agent for Kobe? Rob Pelinka. So I was hearing it was being broken down that when trades like this happen and it's quiet like this and it's kept hush hush, you have the owners are involved, and then also is with your familiarity. Who do you know? Who do you have a relationship with? He has a relationship with Rob Pelinka long before this happened. And we mentioned earlier in the show, he's had an infatuation for Anthony Davis. Those two factors factored in to why it happened and why it was kept on the hush hush where no insiders, nobody knew. They was texting each other, having regular conversation, doing this. And Rob actually laughed like, wait, you serious? That's how it went down. They know each other long before this. Now, that happened Saturday. The very next day, a big trade happened. We knew this one was going to happen, though. We knew De'Aaron Fox was being traded. De'Aaron Fox said he wanted to go to San Antonio. He ends up with the Spurs. What were your thoughts on this trade? I'll just say this. Y'all have the floor after this. If David Stern was alive, he's stepping in probably on both of these trades. And he's taking ownership out of the Kings and the Bulls. Because this is absolutely asinine. What the Kings and the Bulls got back. The Spurs, they kept their roster. They kept Castle. They kept Chris Paul. They kept Vassell. They kept Jeremy Show. They kept everybody. For De'Aaron Fox, the floor is yours. Those are two poverty-ridden franchises.
Uh, seeing this trade come through, man, I was still just unmoved. I was unmoved and unfazed because of what seeing the biggest trade in NBA history go down. But the Bulls got nothing. The Bulls got shafted. The Bulls got shafted. They did, and that's not the word I want to use. But I'm not going to use that on this podcast. That's a family program. So to get, I'm actually not even remembering exactly what they even got from this trade. Just some, it was like mid-level players. It wasn't anyone good. No picks, no picks at all. They get nothing of the kind there, and they're a rebuilding organization. And to get no picks at all in this trade is it's just unbelievable. As
I'll break it
well,
down. I'll break it down for you. So the
yeah, go
Bulls got
ahead. Yeah.
Zach. The Bulls got Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Herter. They got back their 2025 first round pick via the Spurs, but
Okay.
being that it's coming from the Spurs, and we know they're not. That's not going to be a high pick. The Kings got Zach LaVine, City Sissoko, 2025, 2027, 2031 first round picks, 2025, 2028, 2028 second round picks. 3 of these are protected and won't be in the top 5 regardless anyway. So that's what they got back.
They got a better return for De'Aaron Fox than the Mavericks did for Luka Doncic. Nico, you are so fired. You better go on Indeed now. You are so fired. He's gone. He is gone. It's embarrassing. Mikal Bridges commanded 6 first-round picks, and you got and Miles, sore spot for Miles. I know. And it's not a Knicks day today. Um, but to get such a minimal, I'm sorry, I'm gonna bring it back to the Lakers. I don't even mean to do this. It's just such a minimal return from Luka Doncic is a joke. But on this trade, okay, the Bulls didn't get shafted as bad as I thought they did. They got a pick back. They got Kevin Herter's not a bad basketball player. He can play, but you know what? It's still a bad trade, and it's still a fireable trade because you know what? You're a team that's stuck in no man's land. Kevin Herter's is too good of a player for you to tank, and you need to be tanking with these great draft classes coming up, especially this one. You should have looked to get considerably worse to get in the top 10 in the lottery odds, and you went and got Kevin Herter, Trey Jones, and Zach Collins. Whatever. He's just here for the ride. But to get those guys, you're not going to be a bad basketball team. Like you're just not. And then you have this like weird logjam at point guard with Trey Jones and Lonzo Ball and Josh Giddey. So you got to figure out what you're going to do there. I'm sure the Bulls aren't done. They're going to have to make more trades to get bad. But what a poorly run organization, truly. What a poorly run. It's the Jordan curse is what it is. It's really a shame. But I'll let Miles carry on with the rest of it. I mean, the Kings did well for themselves. I'll give them that. They definitely did.
Yeah, the Kings being able to get 3 first-round picks, all those picks with Levine, making Chicago Bulls South Central it's a cool dynamic. But for the Bulls to not really get much back, like they got Zach Collins, Trey Jones. Ugh, it's just nasty work. But I know they're looking to trade Lonzo at some point this week. I saw they have like a second round pick that they're looking for from teams for him in the last year of his deal, which any contender, I mean, I know he's coming off of major knee injuries, but that's a guy that I would want on my team. He just knows how to play the game the right way, and I think he'd make an instant impact. So that's another way they can recoup some picks and get worse because Lonzo, he just does too many things for winning basketball. So, and then the Spurs getting De'Aaron Fox. Like, first, them getting the number 1 pick, like, feels like 3 decades in a row to get David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Wemby. Just it doesn't feel right. Like, the Knicks never get any of this. We got shafted, and we had to draft RJ Barrett instead of Ja Morant or Zion. So the Spurs are a blessed organization. And then all of a sudden, De'Aaron Fox wants out, and this is the first place he wants to go is the Spurs. I mean, this is going to be fun to watch. He can get up and down the court. That's going to be a great 1-2 punch. They still got Vassell. They didn't have to trade Castle, so it's already an A+ for them as far as maneuvering this trade. Because at first they were saying, all right, maybe it doesn't go through because Castle's untouchable. At first they thought Castle was untouchable, and I guess he was. I mean, Castle is really good. I think he's going to be really good in this league. And you pair him, Wemby, and De'Aaron Fox for the future, this team could flip things pretty quickly, and players are going to want to play with these guys. So the Spurs, they got a great outlook moving forward.
Hey, what's the ceiling with this team? And do you think they possibly move CP3? Because I think he kind of becomes the odd man out. Like he'll still play, but those minutes are significantly going to drop. Like I don't know if he wants to just be there as a mentor to Castle, and honestly, he would be a mentor to Fox too, because Fox still has a lot to learn.
I'd still keep him, because injury happened. So this guy is a seasoned vet. He could still win in this league, with the right environment around him. So his minutes will dwindle. He'll still play and still make an impact, but he's not going to play as much now that they got a another point guard in there, and they're still developing Castle. But I'd keep him so he can still be in Castle's ear, help him grow because this guy is legit. So yeah, I don't see them trading Chris Paul. It's a 1-year deal too, so I don't really think that they should look to move him. Like if you're trying to win right now and make the playoffs in Wemby's second year, which they definitely can with some of the moves they've made, then why not keep a guy that in the playoffs you're going to need guys like this, guys that know how to play down the stretch. Sometimes you might have to make that tough choice of playing him over Fox or him over Castle at points, and Chris Paul is going to make the right play. The IQ is just on another level. So yeah, I think Chris Paul's got to stay, and I hope they make it to the playoffs and we get to see playoff Wemby, and maybe they make it beyond that, maybe the second round. So
I know we mentioned that the Kings, they didn't do too bad, but I think ultimately the picks are and all. Just like when we talk about the Mavericks in that trade, I actually like what the Mavericks did more because you got at least what you're getting and Anthony Davis. You have no idea what these picks may turn into if you actually get a top tier pick. And for the Kings, you picking in the middle and below at the end of the first round does not do anything, does not move anything, especially being that we haven't seen anything that lets us know that your front office knows how to draft properly anyway. So it's not like you're a top tier office. We're like, all right, we could get a 17th pick and we'll find somebody. No, they need the highest pick possible. And also the lineup that they have going on that's projected to be the starting lineup is absolutely disgusting. It's disgusting. Y'all fire Mike Brown. The man that was talking about having them play defense, and y'all just said, F it. We don't want to play defense at all. Because y'all going to have Malik Monk running the point guard position with Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray at the 4, and Sabonis. I think the Kings lost in this trade too. That's a disgusting lineup. Absolutely disgusting lineup. That literally just said, all right, we just going to go try to get buckets. We're not going to play defense. I don't like it at all for them. Couple names that's still out there that's big names per se that's still out there. Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant. Do y'all think they actually get moved? If so, where do they possibly end up going? Obviously, Jimmy wants to go to Phoenix. On the Jimmy front, and y'all got the floor. I don't know. Does Jimmy think this is back in like 20 in the bubble or 2018? You started off your trade request saying anywhere but Miami I'll play. Memphis wants you. I don't want Memphis. Golden State. I don't want Golden State. You don't got options, my boy. You don't have options like that. You are not prime Jimmy Butler. I feel Pat Riley looking at him like I look at my kids. You think you got options? You think you get a choice? Who do you think you are? Pat Riley, a report came out. Pat Riley tried to send him today. He's talking to Memphis, and Memphis like, nah, your asking price is too high. That's Pat Riley. Pat Riley is the parent saying, Negro, you ain't got no choice. You don't got no say in this. You better be happy wherever I send you. Do you think either of them actually get moved? And if so, where?
So many thoughts. All right, well, before we get into Jimmy, the Aaron Fox, the Wemby, they have to make another move. They're going to go compete for a championship. I'm not convinced that that combination is good enough to win an NBA championship. They're not in that conversation yet. They're probably in that Knicks tier of like just underneath contender. And I didn't mean no offense by that. I said this to someone at the gym and they got mad at me, bro. I don't know why. Like, yeah, okay, but I think that's where I view them. Like they've ascended into that tier where like they're a move away. They're a move away, I think, from really being serious and Stephon Castle's development away. But okay, on to the next thing. Jimmy Butler. He's clear he's trying to force his way to go to the Suns. It's stupid because Bradley Beal is not going to waive his no trade. So he has them by the balls and they chose to trade for him and chose to make that transaction idiotically. So I don't feel bad for Phoenix at all in the slightest. And you can see like Phoenix is panicking. They're like, this team's not going to win a championship. We have egg all over our face right now. We blew up a really good basketball team with great chemistry with McCall and Cam and all these guys to get Kevin Durant over here. And then we made a not a bad decision, but a iffy decision already just worse by going and getting Bradley Beal to come down here from the Chocolate City, and he's arrived and he has a no trade clause, and we're stuck with him, and his back is blows out every other day, and we're in this weird situation. So look, man, I mean, like Jimmy is delusional. Jimmy is delusional, right? To think you're going to force your way there and Bradley won't be involved in this trade one way or the other. The money has to match. The money has to match, and KD won't be the person going out on this trade because you're coming in. The value don't add up, Jimmy. Like so Jimmy, I think he thinks that this is 5-6 years ago. The same way Nico Harris thinks this is 5-6 years ago going for KD in that trade. He thinks that he has the same value he had back then. He thinks he's Minnesota Jimmy. He thinks he's Chicago Jimmy. He thinks he's early Miami Jimmy. You're not. You're not that version of yourself anymore. You've had more injuries. You've already got a reputation as a guy who doesn't play hard throughout the regular season because you deem that it doesn't matter. Well, everything's gonna matter to you now because before you know it, you'll be out the league. They'll tolerate you until they can replace you, and that's the way this thing goes, especially in pro sports. So, it's clear what he's trying to do as well, and I can see why every other team in the NBA wouldn't be keen on trying to make a trade for him because why do you want to bring that into your locker room if you don't have to? The Warriors are just desperate. Like they're just desperate. So they're like, hey, you know what? We're gonna do whatever we can. Steph's career is dwindling. He's not as healthy. He's not, he's miserable. We need to do right by him and set him out the right way. So they're trying. Kudos to them for that, but they're desperate and they reek of desperation. And not every team is blessed by God the way the Lakers are, where you get like a free lifeline. They're not gonna get that as well. So yeah, man, I think he's trying to go to the Suns. I don't think it'll happen. And quite frankly, I don't know where he ends up going if it isn't the Suns because he's going to be difficult about anywhere else. And most likely, I think the second most likely destination is the Warriors after they kiss this KD pipe dream away and they move on. But I think it'll have to be the Warriors or the Suns. It's kind of my read onto the situation, but we'll have to wait and see. Two teams that are desperate enough to go after Jimmy and treat him like a crown jewel, even though that jewel been rusted for a little bit.
Well, for the KD side of things, I think they should take it seriously and look to trade him during this week because this team is not good enough to compete. They're all out of moves. Bradley Beal already stuck his foot in the sand and said, "I'm not leaving." So what else are you going to be able to do? Like if you wanted to pair somebody with Devin Booker and KD, Bradley Beal has to go. So unless you can blackmail him, he's staying, and they got nothing on him. So if they can get something back for KD, which now it always just seems like it's rinse and repeat with KD, where teams trade for him and try to figure out what can I get for him because it didn't work out. Um, but like teams like Minnesota should be, calling to see what they can give up for KD to pair with AD and AD, well, Ant, my fault. To pair with those guys over there. Maybe you trade like an expiring like Julius Randle for him, so it works for both sides. They clear out the cap space. You get Julius on that deal. It ends after this year, and have some breathing room next year. Or maybe a dark horse. OKC got hella picks. At some point, you got to make a move for somebody, and maybe KD's not that guy that you make that move for. But I don't think they're gonna have to give up as much as you would think to get KD. So if OKC could find a way to swing that, and you got a tandem like Shea, Jalen Williams, and KD, along with some of those role players that they have, because they know what they're doing over there. That team automatically vaults to, I think, a top two title contender in the NBA. So, OKC is really good. They're still really young though, so they need. I feel like they need to make a move at some point for a vet.
It's only Monday. We still got the rest of the week to go for trades, but the two biggest trades probably already happened. Even if KD gets moved, even if Jimmy Butler gets moved, it still would not compare to literally what happened with the Luka Doncic trade. That will go down in history, probably in all sports, as one of the biggest trades ever to happen. Some may say one of the stupidest trades. However you view it, it's going down in history as one of the biggest, which we know. Yeah, I've had some issues as of late of us discussing one of the greatest seasons. I know that's an issue as of late, regarding one of, and if we understand what that means, but we understand what that means on this podcast here. You already know the vibes here. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.